This is Gilbert from Winnipeg. I am the only surviving sibling, or I should say brother. I have one sister yet too, but there's only two of us left from a dozen kids. But this is remembering my sister Ethel, and I'm going to be addressing her, not the congregation. Ethel, one of the three musketeers, almost like a family all its own. You, Bernie, and I were often seen by other siblings as a totally separate group. After all, we were the youngest three and did things as a trio. Eleanor, a sister just older than you, died after less than a year of life. This left Alan as the next in line, almost 4 years your elder. Because of that, you were part of us, the youngsters. We were too young to bear the pain of the Depression, nor the horrors of World War II. Our lives were filled with quiet peace, fun-loving games, and joyous times. I remember having stories read to me by you. You made the characters come alive. But more than that, you took the time out of your busyness to read to me, a child, 5 years younger than you, his big sister, as we joined in various youth activities that broadened our horizons beyond our school and home. I remember during my high school years, you lived at home. During those first years of teaching, you often took the time to enter into household activities. Probably at the behest of our father, you were heavily involved in music, from choir, ladies' trio, and piano, and then violin. You seemed to live music, and this all between school assignments. Your time was filled, and Mother knew that too. Many a time after a meal was done, Mum would gently say to you, Ethel, time for you to practice piano, and Bert, you can do the dishes. Bernie too often helped Mum set the table. We all had chores, but sometimes I felt that your chore was only what you would have done anyway. You loved anything musical, and so being told to practice was a treat, not really a chore for you. But doing dishes was definitely a chore for me. I always hurriedly did the dishes because the evenings were filled with sports, softball, lacrosse, flag football, and soccer. For me, soccer became king. I played at every opportunity, at school, after school, and Saturdays if possible. Ethel, you loved anything musical, while I wanted everything sports-related. At school, you had built quite a reputation for good behavior. Once, when our math teacher was out, some of us decided to throw a ball back and forth across the room. Of course, just as I threw the ball, the principal walked by. He saw what was happening and asked our names. When I gave mine, he shook his head and declared that I had a sister who would really frown on such behavior. I had a reputation to uphold, which is so much better than this. Then in 1954, our parents took us, the Three Musketeers, to California to visit family and friends that had moved there. However, the trip also included numerous fun activities. Even without Disneyland, which was still a dream in Disney's mind, what fun times we had. So many things to see and do, so many relatives with whom we connected. The three of us, plus Dad and Mom, who spent the money so we could tour throughout the San Joaquin and Los Angeles valleys. We really were the privileged ones, and then we learned that 30 years before, Dad and Mom, with the eldest three, had traveled south from the prairies to visit relatives and tourist spots. You finished high school and ventured off to higher learning, while I continued to enjoy my high school years. You went to college in Winnipeg. We moved to Abbotsford. We moved in with Grandpa Thiessen to care for him. After graduation, I stayed home and got some Bible training at MBBI, a school just down the road. Then, for me at least, an exciting offer came to travel down to Kansas to Tabor College to play soccer while I studied. I also found it special that while there, you, with the MBBC choir, came to Tabor to participate in a choral fest. Ethel, you taught in various places, sometimes alone, and then with a young man named Peter. Then, in a rather startling announcement, we learned that you and Peter were engaged to be married. We all came home for your wedding and for our parents' golden anniversary. Not sure whether this was really what you wanted, but when Dad asked, you acquiesced. The entire weekend was one of celebration, but some troubles boiled beneath the surface. You were forced to play second fiddle, a place that you found frustratingly difficult. But you, Ethel, like so many times in your life, you bit your tongue and put on a smiling face. Married life seemed good for you. You lived in Manitoba for a time where Peter taught in elementary grades. But then you uprooted and moved all to Prince George to take on the tough business venture of book sales. Traveling the countryside for living books, your children left for school, then married and lived away. They mostly left you on your own. They visited as they could, but never enough as far as you were concerned. Remember that trip to California? You and Peter in your big sedan, we and Bernie and Rose each in our supercab Ford pickups. We were in Bakersfield for a family wedding, then traveled south to LA to see the sights. We traveled in a caravan with us in front, you in the middle, and Bernie in the rear. We wanted to make sure Peter and you did not get lost. But I know at least we taxed your emotional fears as you made a U-turn right across 6 lanes of traffic in order to gain access to Disneyland. Peter hesitated and then made a quick turn to follow. Bernie too made the turn, all without getting hit. I think it took Peter and you the rest of the evening to recover. But in spite of this, we had a great time at Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and the California Alligator Farm. Not only had we seen a lot, we managed to visit cousins who lived in the Dinuba-Reedley area of the San Joaquin Valley. Sadly, we all needed to part ways, each traveling to respective homes. After quite a few years in Prince George, you moved south to Vedder to be close to relatives. Peter drove taxi and you taught some piano. Here you seem more relaxed, able to visit close family and discover new friends at church. You moved to the Fraser Valley, we moved to Winnipeg. Still further east from you, but close enough by phone that on a number of occasions we met at conventions and enjoyed the visiting between and after the sessions. Remember the camping we did at the Prairie Bible campus? You in your van, we in our travel trailer. Susan and I visited numerous times and always enjoyed the many touring trips throughout the valley, stopping at an ice cream dairy or Tim Hortons along the way. On several BC trips, we traveled together in tourist spots to Whistler and Squamish and Vancouver Island, where we toured across the Iqaluit and then down to Victoria. Thanks also for making several trips to Winnipeg where we could take you touring throughout our city, but he also traveled beyond our city borders to southern Manitoba to visit John and Elsie and other family members throughout the South. Then life for you became more complicated. Peter suffered a stroke, so severe his recovery was in doubt. Eventually, with much effort and care, he was able to get his movement back, and he could drive again. But soon deterioration forced dependence on you and others. He rarely left the security of his wheelchair to get around. I remember some phone calls when you said, "This is the way life is now." We felt sorry for your situation and sought to be encouragers, but you seemed resigned to suffering along with Peter. We managed to have you organize some family lunches at the Rose Cafe, a favorite lunch and coffee place. You invited relatives and friends who lived close by. Peter in his wheelchair and you walking beside could come to eat and visit. Peter's stroke seemed to bring your life to a standstill. We tried to have you come to visit family without Peter, but your reply was always, "No, what if Peter needs me?" A few times we did get you to come, as we visited Herb and Ann in Delta. We have stayed in Winnipeg, you in Abbotsford. Our visits have lessened, but our phone calls have increased in number with questions about children, grandchildren, and other members of our extended family. You gave much support as I grieved the loss of Susan, my partner for some 60 years. Then, when I surprised you with a wedding announcement, you expressed joy and thankfulness for my second marriage. You showed us, Mary and me, the acceptance we desired. Ethel, Mary and I visited in March 24, a few short months ago. You joyfully planned another get-together at the Rose Cafe for this and the many other times you made our visits memorable. We are truly thankful. For this showed our mutual love. When we were together, you frequently talked about family. I knew you wanted to know what was going on in each one's life. You even kept papers and notes in separate genealogical files, tracing each family member's life. Music has always been a part of your life, so maybe all the practicing done while I did dishes helped make piano and organ playing a joyful, fulfilling part of your life. Ethel, you have often played for funerals. Now, who will play for yours? Now we are in Winnipeg as your family prepares a final resting place. God is calling you home to that eternal rest. Your children let us know you have passed from earth. But I remember the many connections throughout the years. Thank you for your love and caring as your younger brother mourns. I have lost the second of the three of us. 3 musketeers. Our lives were full. Now, all I have is memories.